Good evening. Welcome back to the Education Finance Committee. And thank you for hanging with us. Hopefully this will be a little painless and we can all go out about our business and other committees we're supposed to be in. So with that, we have House File 1224. Representative Hill, would you like to move House File 1224 before the committee with the intention of laying it over for possible inclusion in the Education Finance Bill?
Yes, thank you, Chair. That is the motion.
Thank you. Members, you also have a fiscal note in your packets. No, you don't. That was the old one. That was in the wrong packet. So, 1224, Ms. Beckel, I'm trying to remember if we needed a fiscal note for this one or if it has a direct appropriation. Oh, it has a direct appropriation, members, on pages 3 and 4. So no fiscal note necessary, but there is an impact that you can see there. With that, Representative Hill, now that I've blathered on, would you like to proceed with your testimony?
Yes, thank you, Chair Joachim, and thanks for joining us again here, committee members. The bill that we're going to speak to tonight, House File 1224, seeks to add supports to those who hold licenses as they move through the tiered structure. And I think it's important to note that in total, the three bills that I've brought forth today, this being the third, work to augment and support robust pathways to all who are seeking licensure to teach in Minnesota's public schools. I especially want to note the additional removal of barriers these pathways provide, and again point out that this bill will remove exactly 0 current Minnesota teachers from their service to students in their classrooms. Along with these additional pathways, I'm excited to note that as a co-author on Representative Hassan's House File 320, we're seeking to make a historic investment of more than $100 million towards attracting, hiring, retaining, supporting, empowering, and retaining teachers that are more representative of the Minnesota students that they seek to serve. I'm thankful for all the stakeholders who reached out, and I look forward to the continued dialogue here in committee. And I want to point out that many who brought concerns share with me the important goal of increasing the number of teachers of color here in Minnesota. I'm also going to note that they expressed a concern that they or a colleague they know will be suddenly removed from their teaching position due to this bill or one of the other two, and I just want to reassure the committee that this will not happen under House File 1224, 1257, and 1268. With that, I look forward to the discussion here tonight. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Representative Hill. And I think what I'm going to have Dr. Bailey do, just because we briefly went over it earlier this morning, is maybe just highlight the fiscal implications that are in this bill. I should say the fiscal investments that you're making in both the portfolio process and in the pathway preparation grants, and talk briefly about those.
Yes. All right. Well, that is quite loud. Madam Chair, members of the committee. So after the last meeting, I thought I had to be extra close. So in here, there are 3 sets of funding in the appropriations. So if you'll look first at lines 3.16 and 3.17, that provides a total of $800,000 that would go towards districts so they can get current Tier 2 teachers their Tier 3 license either through enrollment in teacher preparation, whether that's traditional higher ed or an alternative provider, or licensure via portfolio, so through mentorship and the licensure via portfolio process. I will say currently we have about 1,100 Tier 2 teachers who are not enrolled in prep or haven't completed teacher preparation, so that $800,000 is enough for each of those individuals alone to go through licensure via portfolio. As was mentioned by Representative Hill, I know in combination, the additional $12 million in HF 320 for the CUGMIC grant would be more than enough to put all of those individuals of color through teacher preparation as well. So there's funding combination for these efforts to cover those folks. Looks like, do I need to stop? I hear.
Actually, we're going to have an adjustment on the mics real quick, just so there's not as much feedback.
Thank you, yeah.
So. Okay, I think that's, yeah, try that.
Test that. Is that
Yeah.
better?
Thank you.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, Madam Chair, members of the committee, I don't enjoy hearing my own voice and feedback back to me, so thank you. I don't know that anyone enjoys hearing their own voice on a recording. So that's cover that. So the $800,000 is enough to go directly to districts for their tier 2 teachers to support them in enrollment teacher preparation, traditional teacher preparation, alternative preparation, or licensure via portfolio. And again, that is enough for all of the 1,100 teachers who are not enrolled or completed preparation in tier 2 to go through licensure via portfolio. It would cover it and make it free to them. On line 4.3, there is $50,000 to support through the online platform. So we've piloted with an online platform. This is a very small amount to help streamline that and continue that process. Given the interest and the growth we've seen and how much more successful people are at applying through this online platform, this would be the beginning of ideally this being kind of a state online platform that could help folks make that a very accessible and viable platform. And then finally, in lines 4.9 and 4.10, there are about $300,000 to fund new positions. That's over 2 years, so that's benefits, space, things like that, to fund a staff member that would be dedicated specifically to supporting these folks in getting their pathway, their position through the licensure via portfolio. So one of the items that you've often heard from testifiers or questions is the historic difficulty around the licensure via portfolio. So this would dedicate someone specifically to walking through navigating the licensure standards and structure, through creating and developing their portfolio, through meeting the standards. So giving them that guided work. So it's not just figure out the system and get through it. This funding together works to cover the costs, cover the support, and get people moving up those tiers.
Thank you. With that, members, do we have any questions or comments? I actually have the first one for Dr. Bailey. When you talk about that licensure via portfolio money towards position, I hope that we're starting to hopefully you're thinking about ways to also get out into the community, into the schools, to look at the districts that might have a larger percentage of tier 1 and 2 and hold workshops on site, so that we're not just waiting for them to call us. That would be something I'd kind of like to see going toward that. I know finally getting an extra person there does help with the staffing that it takes to help someone go through the process, but it would be nice, along with those grants the districts are getting, if a district doesn't get a grant but has a large portion of tier 1 and 2, that maybe we can bring some of the support to them. It's just a thought. So yeah. With that, I've got Representative Eltendorf.
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Representative Hill, and thank you for presenting this. I had a question. I think it's, oh, sorry, I lost my notes here. So for Dr. Bailey, I think you had said that this is not disproportionately impacting teachers of color, but if my statistics are correct, that in the last 5 years, we've had 17 teachers of color that have moved from tier 2 to tier 3 pathway, and that is a larger percentage.
Dr. Bailey.
Yeah, Madam Chair, members of the committee. So what I said is that in context, the number isn't disproportionate. So we have 17 individuals who've used this pathway. Those are 17 individuals who deserve to be in the classroom. We want them to have supports. We also want them to have the training to meet the standards. But that's 17 out of the tens of thousands of teachers of color that we have in our current classrooms. That's what I'm saying. It isn't a disproportionate amount. So, for example, people will often discuss tier 1 and tier 2 does a great job of getting teachers of color in the classroom. About 28%, I believe, of our tier 2 teachers are teachers of color. It's 28% of about, I would say, 2,000, so we're talking about a few hundred folks, right? Versus, again, the tens of thousands of teachers of color that currently hold a tier 3 and tier 4 teacher. So I just was giving that context to say it's not a disproportionate amount number-wise of our teachers of color. It is a higher proportion of that tier, if that makes sense. But that tier represents a very small makeup of our entire teaching profession in the state.
Representative Eltendorf, follow up.
Thank you. Yeah. However, with the numbers, we're showing that teachers of color are really, they're using this pathway and they're using it successfully, to get to that next level. So I would just want us to keep that in mind, that, if this is our goal to increase teachers of color, that we shouldn't be shutting down a pathway that they're using right now. So that really concerns me, because it goes against what I feel like some of our goals are on this committee. And then, as a comment, because one of the testifiers, and I am so sorry, I was taking notes earlier, but I don't remember who testified, but she just specifically had said during her testimony that, why the rush? Because we took years and years to get this licensure program in place, and now at this time of being at a shortage of teachers, and it truly is critical. I mean, I hear this all the time from the school districts. It's really a sad situation. And so my question, to Representative Hill is, what is the urgency and what is this going to achieve instead of waiting and making sure we're doing this correctly?
Representative Hill.
Thank you, Chair Joachim, and thank you for the question, Representative. A couple of things. Number one, as far as the duration of time that passed that brought our tiered system into being, I have a different perspective on how long that took. That was in my estimation and my understanding was that was a compromise that was rapidly put in place at the end of the 2017 session. Secondly, these bills in total seek to provide supports to ensure that teachers are equipped and supported and move forward towards a lengthy and successful career. We continue to see many teachers leaving the profession in those first few years, and we want to make sure that our teachers entering the profession stay and serve students and families over a long term.
Representative Altendorf, follow-up?
Thank you. No, those are my questions, but I am, and again, please, I am very, very concerned with the shortage of teachers, that we are not, taking potential teachers out of the pool right now. I don't think the timing is right, and I don't see, if you weigh pros and cons, I really, really don't see the pros of this bill. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Representative Sensumura.
Thank you. So I know that, we heard from, I think, Dr. Bailey about how, that one of the reasons that we want teachers to have kind of either the portfolio process or go through the teacher preparation process is so that to retain them in the classroom, right? So I think right now with our workforce shortage, we're facing two issues, right? We're facing the recruitment issue, but then what I'm hearing from the data that you all have is that we have a retention issue with teachers of color, right? So we both have the issue of trying to get people of color into the classroom, but then we have a bigger issue, it sounds like, of retaining them. And it sounds like the problem that this is trying to solve is that retention piece. But I also know that, from my own conversations with people leave the classroom for lots of different reasons that we're talking about in this committee, and obviously you all have a narrow lane for what you can focus on, but what data do you all have that shows that one of the reasons people are leaving could be solved by different or better preparation? Thank you.
Representative Hill or Dr. Bailey? Bailey.
Yeah, Madam Chair, members of the committee, that's an excellent question. So there's a few factors, and we actually did a survey to teachers who are all teachers, but also focusing on teachers who are licensed in Minnesota and are not in the classroom, which is about 60,000 teachers, to get a sense of why they're not in the classroom. And it was pretty much the same with what we see in national trends. So issues are, not having adequate preparation, not having issues with school climate, autonomy, pay shows up in there as well. And so this is one measure, but again, if you take these bills together, two items that are on the table, one of them is in your bill, is we know that there is ample research that teacher residency programs help with retention, particularly teachers of color, and especially Black and Latinx educators, right? The other item is that we have ample national research that shows that we have a lower attrition rate for educators that have received preparation because they are then not I'm preaching to the choir with many educators here, people who are involved in school systems. There's a lot you encounter on that first day or through those first few years in the classroom that you're, not going to be prepared for. But if you're dealing with that on top of not having pedagogical training, on top of not having, the skill set to research and figure out and problem solve as you're going along, that's going to layer on that burnout, and these folks leave within 3 to 5 years. So this bill is dealing with one of those three elements, right? That preparation piece. Your bill deals with, kind of innovative programs like residencies. And then finally, school climate is in, Representative Hill mentioned an HF 320. You all funded the last several years, multi-million-dollar funding in our teacher mentorship and retention grant. We have heard from, anecdotally, districts across the state that is doing tremendous work to help with mentorship and retention, that school climate, having people, affinity groups, mentors in their buildings. So I just want to affirm that this bill, along with the other pieces that are being proposed and being done, are addressing these problems. I think often that big picture work gets lost in these conversations. And if I could just squeeze in one last thing, I just wanted to reiterate on the data piece. we have had 5 years of data on tiered licensure. We've had thousands of teachers come in and get tier 2 licenses, and of those, 99 use that pathway. So overwhelmingly, people who get a tier 2 license aren't actually staying. Like, a lot of them come in for a couple of years and they leave the profession. I think it's a great door, but I think that, again, the long view is how do we keep them, right? I'm not saying tier 2 doesn't serve a purpose, right? These are great educators, but how do we keep them for 10, 20, 30 years?
Thank you, Representative Sensenborough. Follow-up? Representative Pryor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So that when I wanted to make my comment and ask my question, then I heard some of the earlier comments about 2017. I was there in 2017. It was not this room, but it was another room in the SOB. And I remember in 2017 when this was brought forward, this was very much data exactly saying what the doctor has just said, that we know going into it that this was not likely to be a very robust way of recruiting and retaining teachers, and that was always the concern. I voted against doing it at that time, and and only at the end I did vote for a bill, an education bill, that actually had funding for schools, and that was the compromise. And what I want to bring up is that even in that bill, I don't think that we truly funded this function of licensing teachers. And what I wanted to say is I'm so glad that we are no longer in policy and we can talk about money. Because what you just described of how we need to roll out and make robust the portfolio system, which we did not fund in 2017, and we are doing now. And so that is the difference. We are solving a problem. We are addressing the retention of high quality, motivated teachers that are engaging with students. We are helping to retain them with this bill. And teachers of color, most importantly, is what we keep lifting up. And that we are doing it, one of the reasons we are doing it is because we're funding it this time. So I think, Representative Hill, I think your total package makes a lot of sense, and it would have made sense in 2017 too.
Thank you, Representative Pryor. And what I'd want to add too, and this is another bill that we've been hearing for years and not having funded well enough, is our Teacher of Color and Indigenous Act. So that is really where the funding and the focus is, on getting more teachers of color in the classroom. These sets of bills are making sure we have qualified teachers in the classroom who have support and are able to stay there. So they work together in concert. So I know there's been a lot of focus on teachers of color in these PELSB bills, where the focus really is on TOCAT. Representative Thornton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you, Dr. Bailey, for coming back tonight. I have a question, and I know I've actually asked you this question a few months ago when PELSB did their overview, but I think it would be important now, given this bill, to think about this. I've heard complaints about how we used to do the portfolio, how the portfolio worked. And I know it has changed. I'm wondering if you could talk about what goes into making the portfolio, what that presentation looks like, and why that fits in with the Tier 3 license.
Dr. Bailey, since we're putting money into that process, it'd be nice to know what's changed with that money.
Absolutely. Madam Chair, members of the committee, I welcome the opportunity to talk about this, because I will agree, and I think it's worth acknowledging where there is room for growth. And historically, the portfolio, it's been underfunded and it hasn't served the function that it needs to. So in the past year, we made a few pretty big changes. 1, reallocation of staff. 2, debuting this online platform. And 3, some policy changes that, again, we work with teacher prep, so the same thing works for them, to recognize content expertise to help meet content standards. So whether you're in teacher preparation or portfolio, you have to demonstrate meeting your content standards for your licensure area, and then if it's an initial license, your pedagogical standards. Typically, if you're going into teacher preparation, let's say you want to get a master's and you have a bachelor's degree in physics. I'll say that for myself, because I am not going to be a physics teacher, but if I wanted to be, that degree would count for content standards, right? But I would need to do a portfolio to show the pedagogical standards. That would mean if I were teaching on a Tier 2, I could take lesson plans I'm creating, assessments from my principal, my administrator, submit those. PELSB does not review those. We put those out to teacher experts that say, oh, you're right, your lesson plan is demonstrating you're implementing this pedagogical expertise, you're meeting these standards, you get approved, and then you move forward. Again, I admit that a lot of these are recent changes, and I think part of it is us being able to communicate that. We've changed the staffing so that the person who works with our teacher preparation providers, who has that expertise in those standards and does program and unit review, is now the person overseeing portfolio, so that the same policies and support can be applied to all individuals seeking our pathways, whether it's through teacher preparation or an innovative pathway like portfolio. That's one big change. The online platform, again, it's a pilot, and we didn't want to, ask for too much money this year. This will help us inch, but not quite get there. It's been a tremendous pilot because previously you had to bring either a physical folder, which is a lot for people to put together, or a flash drive, and then you have to pass the flash drive around to staff members. And we are in 2023, so we managed to do this online, so you can upload your lesson plans, upload your evaluations, things like that. Take videos of yourself teaching and have that be reviewed, right? We want this to be manageable and accessible for folks. So those are some of the changes, and ideally, with the investment, this is something we can continue to grow. One thing that the person working on this is trying to pilot and we'd like to see grow is that working with districts, because they partner with districts on the same online platform. So if you complete a professional development in the science of reading in Stillwater, and you're seeking your elementary license, that cross-references to meet all the standards for reading, so you don't have to reproduce that work. So there's some things with technology and an investment that we can start to do that really will make this even better. But so far, we're doing our best with the resources available to us, and a lot of it is, again, implementation, staffing, better communications. But there's things that were mentioned, like how do we go out to districts and have a staff member that can work directly with these folks. I've floated to my staff the idea this summer, depending on what happens at the legislature, of having that new staff member being able to hold a year-long work with CTE educators, because we know that that's an area, right? And then a separate year-long mentorship with teachers of color. How do we guide them through this process? Because part of it is, the government sometimes can be a little confusing and bureaucratic for folks, but if we have people that can help you do that, that's our job in public service. So I'll get done off my soapbox.
Thank you. Representative Greenman. Oh, nope, got it. And then Representative Altidore, get another one.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, I just had one more question. Going back to Dr. Bailey again. I believe, did you just mention or testify that tens of thousands of teachers of color are in tiers 3 and 4 in Minnesota? I thought that's what you said.
Representative Dr. Bailey, sorry, I almost demoted you.
Yeah, Madam Chair, members, we have thousands. So we have about 60,000 teachers working in our classrooms in the state of Minnesota. And of those, about 6% are teachers of color. So let me do quick math, 6%, about 3,600. Does that put us at about? Yeah, so a few thousand. And that's in the classroom. And then if you look at licensed teachers who aren't in the classroom, it's a lower percentage but a higher amount. So that's 5% of 113,000. So yeah, about 5,000, 5,500. Quick math at the table.
Representative Altidore.
Thank you, Dr. Bailey. Thank you, Madam Chair. I am asking because I had looked at the 2023 biennial report, and according to this, there's 1,000 Black and 1,000 Hispanic teachers that are in levels tiers 3 and 4, and that includes the teachers that are not in the classrooms. So that's quite a bit significantly less than what you're saying. So it didn't, I think originally you said tens of thousands, and according to the biennial report, it was, and this is 2023. I mean, this is, so we're talking 1,000 Black teachers and 1,000 Hispanic teachers.
Dr. Bailey.
Yeah, Madam Chair, members of the committee, if I did say that earlier, hopefully my quick math now is a helpful correction. So again, that 6% of about 60,000 is 3,600 or so teachers of color. It sounds like about 2,000 at what you're looking at. Of those, 3,600 are Black and Latinx, and then the other, what does that leave me at? Goodness gracious. 1,600 are going to be across our other Indigenous, Asian, Hispanic, other groups as well. So the contrast here, though, is to say of our 113,000 licensed teachers, again, 5% teachers of color, that's few thousand in contrast to the 17 individuals is what I'm giving that's the context that I'm trying to frame for you all.
Okay. Thank you. Just one more. Madam Chair?
Yes,
Oh,
Representative Altendorf.
Thank you,
Sorry.
Madam Chair. Okay,
You're
thank you.
calling for
Thank
me
you so
another
much. I'm
committee.
just
I'm
trying to
getting
get all
distracted.
this straight. And do you know how many total teachers then of color have been approved by the licensure, by the portfolio, for this program?
Yeah, Madam Chair, members of the committee, I don't have that data in front of me, but that's the data point we could certainly try to pull for you.
Okay.
Representative Altendorf.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So my concern too is, we also really lack male teachers. And so I would like to know, like, how many black male teachers, how many Hispanic male teachers, because this is an area that I feel like, again, we just want to make sure that moving forward, that we are not in unintended consequences leaving out teachers of color that would use this method at all. So that's my concern. I just want to make sure that our goals and then this bill is actually achieving the goals that we want. So thank you.
Thank you, Representative Altendorf. I'm very glad we're going to be putting some big investments into our Teachers of Color and Indigenous Act as well. Representative Kresha, I think you have the final word down there.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and welcome to be back to the basement room, boys.
I know, isn't it weird?
Such good memories. Representative Hill, thank you for bringing your bill. So I'll say, as I say this, what you're doing is you're taking on a big task, and the comments I'm going to make are in no way indicative of your efforts, whether they'll be successful or not. But what I see is we are facing a people problem that, frankly, I don't think any legislation is going to be able to solve. We have this people problem across every single workforce, every single industry, and there's a lot of reasons why teachers lead, and they're not just, it's not going to show up on spreadsheets. I will tell you that in some of the areas that I work with, as we go out and do workforce recruiting, one of the biggest group that we recruit is teachers, because oftentimes they're very knowledgeable, very experienced, very loyal, very competent, very professional, and they translate into other industries very easily. And so it's not that I believe that teachers are leaving because they don't have the right training. I think that early training can help, but they're leaving for lots of reasons. One of the reasons that they're leaving is probably management. I've learned a long time ago in all the management and all the people that I've trained and hired, people don't leave companies, they leave people. They leave their direct supervisors, and they leave the conditions that are in there because of the stress. And as a teacher and in other areas, and this is across the board, I mean, I can talk broadly for any workforce, but if you're good at what you do, if you are really good at what you do, let's go back to teaching for a second, I go back to my days, if you're really good at what you do, every time you come to work, you leave a little bit there with a kid, or you leave a little bit there with your job, and eventually your tank is empty. The really good educators, the really good administrators, they hit a burnout because they leave their soul there with those kids. And there's, I'm sorry to tell you, there is no bill, there's no amount of money that's going to fill that back up. You're not going to repair people that are leaving who they are with the kids that they teach. And so I applaud many of the things that you're trying to do. I think we're trying to solve issues, but I just don't think we can do that. I think we can provide money and hope for the best and hope that we can get more people in the door. And I mean, many of us in here, if you've been in schools, you've been with good teachers, they come from all walks of life. Some of my best teachers had horrible spelling and grammar, but boy, they could teach me about life, or they could teach me about things that were so far outside of that. And so I think we put too much emphasis on the academic side of it and not the life expectancy and the learning, or I'm sorry, the life experience and the learning, because many of these high school students, we just need to get them through and show them the possibilities and have good mentors so that they can develop that potential. Our best teachers that I worked with, the best mentors that I had, their life experiences were not at all through college. Now, I've had some really good academic ones. I've seen some good ones come through college. But so I think what we're trying to do, and Representative Hill, I think you have some great noteworthy provisions and the whole piece in here. But I think that at the end of the day, if we're going to close doors to people that could develop potentially, or we're gonna lower standards, or we're going to put some demographics out because of this, I think that would be an approach that wouldn't work. and I would caution you against that. Honestly, I think that a system where we get more people in the door with more good administrators, with more good mentors that develop people in those districts is a better solution than hoping we can do it at the top with some type of licensing. I really do. No offense to Pellsby, but I think bureaucracy and licensing holds a lot of people out of this profession. Try to enter this profession after you've been out 10 years. Which is funny because right now I can tell you I could be really good in a lot of areas, but the amount of paperwork and bureaucracy for me to get back in the classroom, not worth it. So I wish you well. I do. I think that you're trying to attack a problem, but I think that we are missing a lot of the people problem that we have. I think we're trying to take the people out of this equation, and at the end of the day, we're just people. And people have emotions, they have stress, and they have all sorts of things. And there is no amount of portfolio that's going to fix that. We just don't have enough people. And that's across the board. So like I said, I'm glad we're having these conversations. I think they're great, and I'm seeing there's going to be some money behind it. But I also think that we have to be very realistic about the problem itself that's in front of us. So I wish you well. Good luck. I'm sure we'll see more in the final bill.
Thank you. With that, Representative Hill, final comments.
Yes, thank you, Chair Joachim. Thank you, committee members. Really appreciated the dialogue here tonight. And I got a signal earlier, hoping people can hear me all right there. This is a problem to be solved, and so I really appreciate Representative Krisha, bringing that up. And respectfully, you and I have had very different experiences with many of the folks that I've worked alongside of in education. Many of the best teachers and the best mentors that I've had. To my knowledge, very few of them feel burned out by the service and commitment they have to their students. Quite honestly, they get burned out and stressed because of the lack of resources that we have put forth into public education, the lack of supports, and in some cases, due to nobody's fault in this space, I'm sure, a lack of respect at times. And so as we move forward, looking to support, to empower, to equip, and ensure that our teachers that are placed into our classrooms are ready to go and ready to serve kids with quality for long careers. And so that they too can feel the things that I've felt as an educator, to be buoyed, to be fulfilled, and to be excited to be back tomorrow. So thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Representative Hill. And with that, we will lay House File 1224 over for possible inclusion in the Education Finance Bill. Members, tomorrow we will be back in our regular room at 10:30 in the Capitol. We are adjourned.